Monday. Monday evening was the opening media night. It was on NFL Network. That was pretty incredible to see, how they get – boy, first off, let's start with this. The San Francisco 49ers fans that were there on Monday alone. Yeah. Like, there were so many Niners fans there early. Now, as the week went on, I think Chiefs fans, they kind of started getting into town. But the Niners faithful was there. I think there was 28,000 people at that. And we talked about that on Tuesday's show, which was wild in itself because we did not from the hotel, had some technical issues. But that Monday night coming right off of that and watching how everything went down and the players being so poised, like you had mentioned, Pat, about them being, can sit there for an hour and take all these different questions and answer them with great answers, well thought out answers, not getting frustrated with the kind of the silliness of some of them and everything. And then going into like the real stuff. Like Monday was for TV, but like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday was really for, hey, you guys are bussing or driving out to the team hotels out in Henderson, which is about 25 minutes off the strip. So it kept those guys out of trouble. I think we did realize.
Except for the Coyotes.
Except for the Coyote that bit somebody allegedly. Yeah. But other than that, there were no incidences that we know of yet of a player on either team getting in trouble during Super Bowl week. I don't think anything came out. Yeah. I think they did a good job of keeping themselves away from trouble, going out there, kind of seeing that set up how each individual player kind of had their own little area and section to talk about. Surprise, surprise. Brock Purdy's area was, 15 people deep. You know what I mean? But it was kind of interesting to watch them do that and answer the questions they do because that was really about football. That was like, where do you guys see going this week? What are you guys practicing on? What are you guys working on? What are your thoughts so far on the practice facility? Because we heard a lot about that.
Right.
About how what they practiced on wasn't the greatest of surfaces. And then that it was outside. And they kind of got the short end of the stick the entire time.
Right.
But at the same time, someone's going to get it. Someone's going to get it.
Right. I was going to say that. Not that I was really planning on that being a topic, but like since we are kind of talking about leading into the Super Bowl, that did seem to kind of be a recurring theme that things were kind of going wrong for the 49ers early on and everything seemed to, be, hunky-dory for the Chiefs. They had the great practice facility. They were the home team, so they got the Raiders' home facilities. The 49ers had to go to UNLV. Bosa described it as like grass on top of turf, which was really weird. So and then they had an alarm wake them up. The media week is not a normal week. It's just
a lot going on with it.
The lead up was crazy for them.
All right, so on the other side, we're going to get into more of this game, break down the NFL honors and all that good stuff. You guys are listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of the Dan Patrick Show. He was there, Rich Eisen, of course, and us, James Out West, featuring Pat the Stat Guy. Make sure you guys come on back.
Welcome back to James Out West, featuring Ryan Rooks on KDUS 1060.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy into the night, KDUS 1060 AM Phoenix, Aaron on the other side of the glass. Obviously, if you guys have been paying attention to our show or listening for a while, Ryan Rooks was a part of this, obviously part of the beginning of it, and his team, the Niners, were in the Super Bowl. So with everything that's happened with him, it was appropriate. We were able to take a little bit of him with us and take him with us through our journey, which was pretty awesome. So shout out CJ for that. Was very appreciative. And very cool. It was just different. It was an interesting place. Like you said, there's celebrities everywhere during Super Bowl week. There's celebrities everywhere during Radio Row. It's become more and more, all levels. I mean, you would talk about like currently A-list, like, as far as in the comedic world and like Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer were there. You had Bruce Buffer. Shout out Bruce Buffer. We chatted with him. And then you had people like Carrot Top. You had Flavor Flav. Like, it was such a hodgepodge of different people. Who did you find? Okay, so let me ask you this, Pat. Who was the most, not unassuming, like you wouldn't think you would have saw them at the Super Bowl week? Like, what person did you see, celebrity or otherwise, that you're like, I can't believe I saw them? There were
so many of them, and to be honest, I kept getting their names wrong, and you would correct me, like, no, that's not that guy. It's this guy. But, like, that was pretty funny. But, like, there were a lot of them, and I got most excited for, like, the C-level celebrities. I saw the bar rescue guy, which I don't know why I always thought that guy was 6'5". He's maybe 5'11", And then I saw, obviously Cam Newton was there. He was huge. I couldn't believe how big he was.
Cam Newton was massive.
Right? But then, like, there were a lot of, like, you expect to see Cam, of course. That doesn't really answer your question. But there was, like, Dr. Oz and some just, like, really, I don't know if he's a Vegas guy or what it was, but there was some
pushing something.
I know we saw, this is a random one. We saw Chandler Parsons. I was like, that's Chandler Parsons. You're like, I thought that was a homeless guy.
Yeah, you said when you have so much money, you can dress like a bum. And he's obviously at that point.
He's got that NBA money.
And then out of all of those people, so we see all these people. We chat with some of them. I chatted with Michael Lombardi. Shout out the ex-GM of the Browns. Shout out Mary Kay Cabot. A lot of people. We brush shoulders with C.J. Stroud. Lots of people there.
Right.
But the greatest one out of them all, so my wife, your sister, shout out Teresa,
That was pretty awesome.
we're at Radio Row, we're working hard, and my wife is strolling through the Cosmo coming off of a spa day and gets a selfie with Jason Kelce. So
Amazing.
she actually got the best out of all of us was that. It was very interesting, fun.
She definitely had the best moment of the week.
And she had the best luck. So shout out to her.
Yeah.
She had a great weekend, and
She was only out there for a couple days, and her days were spectacular.
her
Like you
days
said.
were spectacular. That
But
is
yeah,
true.
I do say, like, I keep forgetting, like, because I was thinking, like, there were a lot of, like, C-level celebrities that I don't know why they just brought. It made my day. But, another one was he's got to be a top 5, maybe a top 3 favorite athlete of mine. I got to see Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
I got to walk right by AP all day, Adrian Peterson. It was crazy.
There were some really cool things, and see how the behind the scenes, a lot of us, because we like the tech side of it, because we're kind of learning what we're doing. So seeing the different kinds of cameras and lighting systems and all the equipment, kind of geeked out on the tech stuff, which was really cool.
I know you're a Pat McAfee guy, so we got to watch some episodes of Pat McAfee be filmed, which was really cool. And again, our cameras are not up to par with theirs, but it was cool to see.
It was very interesting. And again, all those people do such a great job. All the people behind the scenes and how hard they work. They were there 24/7. That place was open 24/7. There were shows at 3 a.m. at midnight. These people all over the world were doing radio shows from there. So they were putting in the work. It was great to see, which led to Thursday, which was NFL Honors.
Yes.
So we got this little app. We figured, hey, we're going to go in. It says, we can select this. We can, we reserve our time. Cool. We're like, me and Pat are like, we're going to go. We're going to go to NFL Honors.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the red carpet. We're going to get pictures. This is going to be the greatest. We're going to get an interview or two. We'll see. We get there, and if you've ever had this happen to you, ladies and gentlemen, it's a little embarrassing when you get to a place that you think your name's on the list and it's not on the list, and they ask you to go stand in the auxiliary line and wait for somebody to come talk to you. That's a little embarrassing. You got all these players dressed to the gills, the 9s, the 10s, the 11s, and their ladies, all standing there with their clutch purses and their Gucci, and here we are standing there looking like a bunch of bums, and they go, oh, you need to request that like a month ago, not yesterday. So we were not at that, but we turned around and went back. I almost said home. It felt like home for a week. Went back and watched the NFL Honors, some of it, me, you, and
I will
my
say,
wife.
we got bombarded with emails. It got buried in an email.
It had to have.
Yeah, we missed it.
Hey, shout out them for over communicating.
No, I'm not.
NFL
I'm just
communications
saying,
was great, but they do over communicate. You're right. It probably got buried.
It was one we missed. But
So gave us the opportunity to go watch it. I will be honest, it was cold out there, so I'm kind of glad we got turned away.
I mean, we weren't planning on staying for the whole thing anyways. But yeah.
Watching it, and here's why. I mean, obviously we had the MVP, you had the Offensive Player of the Year, and we're going to go through those here real quick. But obviously for the team that didn't make it to the Super Bowl, my team that was in the playoffs, the Cleveland Browns, to have them go in there and win every category that they were, I think, in my mind, watching it, expected to win and should have won. They won Coach of the Year. I think we talked about that. There was a chance maybe D'Amico Ryan. There was a lot of deserving people. Dan Campbell deserving. Mm-hmm. What Cleveland did to make the playoffs and to go through all the quarterbacks they did, and the proof of that being in the pudding, that Joe Flacco wins comeback player of the year, over Baker, over DeMar Hamlin. Shout out to him for coming back from what happened. But I think the right guy probably won. You want to argue Baker? That's fine. That's fine. You can. Mm-hmm. But Coach of the Year, deservedly so. He's got 2 in 5 years. They've made the playoffs. I think Kevin Stefanski's here to stay in Cleveland. That's a nice thing. There's some, well, we'll see until he makes a bad decision. But that's neither here nor there. Assistant Coach of the Year and Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator for Cleveland. They kind of racked up what they needed to. It was like, yes, you guys did great. This is a great honor for you guys. You guys did more than expected. You guys played. And, of course, Myles Garrett getting Defensive Player of the Year over T.J. Watt and Micah Parsons, which, you know what? Shout out to Micah Parsons, the class act that he is, because sometimes he's out of pocket with the things he says. And he'll admit it. He'll admit on his podcast that he's out of pocket, Patrick. But he said the guy that won was supposed to win. It was easy with the eye test to see that he was the Defensive Player of the Year. It's not just about the stats. It's not just about the sacks. It's about what you do. T.J. Watt never had 2 tight ends following him end to end while Myles Garrett moves along the line. Right. He doesn't demand the kind of pressure that Myles Garrett demands, in which that's what the voters gave.
Sweet.
Anyway, sorry. I digress.
Yeah, I just also want to mention that it is not just an award show for the Browns.
No, it wasn't.
There was some other awards given out. I will go with an Ohio shout out, though, because an Ohio State kid did get Rookie of the Year in C.J. Stroud. So that was another one. Big day for Ohio.
And the Houston
football
Texans.
Fans. Yeah.
C.J. Stroud and Willie Anderson Jr. got Defensive Player of the Year, or Rookie Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So they won both, offensive and defensive.
Yep.
I mean, that stands to reason why they made the playoffs.
And then, of course, Lamar, in division rival, Lamar got the MVP. And then Christian McCaffrey might not have a Lombardi trophy, but he did take a home Offensive Player of the Year.
And that's what we talked about. I think we had mentioned that he probably would win. We got almost all of them correct, I think, at that point. I think when we talked about this 2 weeks ago, we got all of them right within reason.
Yeah,
I said maybe Puka.
You brought
I
Puka
gave
up.
Puka. You said CJ, and I think everybody else, we got it right.
Yeah, no, I mean, Puka had a heck of a year. And again, I still wanted to see Puka win some sort of award just to see. He's so likable. I wanted to see a Puka acceptance speech, but it is what it is. But yeah, overall, like you said, I think the guys we expected to win won, which is nice. I don't know if there's voters, but the voters seem to get it right.
Which they don't always do that. So shout out to them.
I don't know who the votors are. Is it fans? Is it like
NFL Honors? I believe is like writers, fans, players. Yeah. It's a mixture.
You're right.
Of everything.
They don't always get it right, and they seem to. So that is again, shout out to them. But again, we have a big game to get into. So
all right, so let's do that. So obviously, starting into this game, we're going to start right from the top. Before the game started, obviously there was so much, 8 hours of coverage and all these things and commercials and that. Which we're going to get into those as well. But
obviously.
We're going to start with that beginning of the America the Beautiful because that was Post Malone, who has turned country, which I've heard him play some country music. I've heard him play some covers. He's really good. He's very good. So his rendition was very folky. It had a light touch to it. I got goosebumps. I got choked up. I thought it was. I was really impressed. No. He could have been louder, but that's on the PA guy. That's on the tech people. I'm not going to blame him for not being louder. He should have been louder than his guitar, but he sounded fantastic. The wife, surprisingly, not a fan. She didn't really like it. She goes, I don't really like this rendition. I know I'm throwing you in the bus, babe, but everybody else seemed to like it. She was like, it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate it.
I think it started kind of slow, and I was like, uh-oh, is this going to be a bad performance? I thought it could go poorly, and then he ended very strongly, and I liked it. Thumbs up from me. You saw a lot of celebrities right away. They did all the intros, of course, all the Kelseys who are now just all celebrities.
Yeah.
Obviously Taylor Swift. I saw Roger Goodell thanking Taylor Swift for all the money she's made the league. It is funny to kind of see the people that come together in those boxes. The Taylor Swift, the Roger Goodells, the Jason Kelce's and
CeCe Sabathia was in that.
Yeah.
Rocking a Chief Wahoo hat. He was in that suite.
Yeah. I was going to say Jason Kelce, and there's a singer, Ice Spice, rapper Ice Spice. It's really, that was there with Taylor Swift. So it is really funny to kind of see the group that's in those boxes. But again, so the show before the show was cool, if you like that stuff. But yeah, I know we got a break coming up, so maybe we don't dive completely into the football game. But yeah, there was 100% a show before the show.
Right, and then Reba, she went over the 90.5 seconds in the national anthem. That was the over/under in the odds making book.
What'd you say?
She went under. She went over.
Okay.
She went over the 90, basically the 90-second mark. She went over it by a little bit.
I heard some people going how could you ever bet on a country singer to do the under? You know what I mean?
That's true. I think any of them, especially in R&B. But they raised that the number up a little bit, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, so that was nice to see. I did like all the pregame stuff, like you said. Post Malone was really good. The national anthem, them going over through everybody, the odd people that you see in the different booths and all that stuff going. I think you mentioned somebody, you said Ice Spice? Is she one of the Spice Girls?
No, she's a new rapper.
Okay.
She's young. But either way, again, not someone that people were freaking out about that on the internet because, again, her and Jason Kelce,
I thought that was like a drink for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Ice Spice.
I didn't expect you to know who Ice Spice was. I was thinking about the name for a second, too. I almost got it wrong. So,
well, it's okay. All right, so on the other side, we're going to dive into the actual game. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, overtime, all that great stuff. You guys are listening to James Out West on KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. James Out West, Pat the Stat Guy, into the night here, KDUS 1060 Phoenix. All right, so we're going to dive actually into the game now. We've gone over all the stuff. Yeah. The first half, obviously, the kickoff, you got a lot of lights, a lot of energy, a lot of adrenaline. Boy, that first drive, the Niners were just boom, 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 boom down the field.
Yeah.
Like CMC was in his bag. He had it going.
Right.
That fumble in the red zone, though, obviously huge.
It was not in the red zone.
Oh, was it?
But yeah,
either
way. But again, like you said, they started. They looked really good. Obviously, the Chiefs won the toss. I believe it was heads for all those bettors. Putting pressure on Purdy right away, giving him the ball. Purdy looked, calm and cool. Looked like it was any other game for him. They did go to CMC, I believe, 4 out of the first 5 plays. And like you said, they were moving the ball. I don't think they were quite in the red zone, but the CMC fumble, obviously big early on. I don't believe the Chiefs were able to capitalize on it, obviously, because they did not score. What was the final score of the first half? What was it? Was it 10-3?
Yeah.
So obviously, but either way, like you said, they were moving the ball right away.
I mean, Brock was 8 of 10 in the first quarter. Like, he was dicing them up. They had a good game plan. The first 15 scripted or 20 scripted looked well. Obviously, the turnover hurts. Time of possession in the first half. I mean, San Francisco was running all over them. I mean, it's really incredible to kind of see Kansas City for the first time in a while. They haven't played great games, but they've won. But to see them look, I guess kind of shell-shocked in the sense of, like, whatever they were doing wasn't working. I felt like San Francisco's defense in the first half was flying all over the place. They were getting after. They were making Mahomes uncomfortable. They were holding Kelsey in check. I mean, that's only going to last for so long. And that actually, we obviously saw that happen. But They seemed like they had a good game plan of what to do with their guys and make other people beat them. That's what it seemed like. Hey, we're not going to let Kelsey beat us. You know what I mean?
Right.
They did a good job. I think Bosa and Chase Young, shout out Chase Young, getting the first sack of the Super Bowl. Ohio State guy getting traded from Washington to there. But, them doing a good job of, as long as we can keep Pat Mahomes inside the box. We don't need him leaving the box and then making plays and letting receivers go downfield. And as long as they did that, they kept Pat in check. When Nick Bosa started getting over aggressive and not staying in his lane and trying to make the play, that was when Pat was getting out and running. That was when Pat was getting out and waiting and making the play. It was they were trying to do too much. They didn't stay disciplined enough, and it bit them.
Right. In the second half, mostly.
Yes.
Because, again,
the first half, they had it down.
Let's not jump too far ahead here, but, I do think, that first half, most things were going San Francisco's way. I do think they had the bigger mistakes with the fumbles and stuff like that. But, again, at the end of the first, 0-0, started the second with, I believe it was a 55-yard field goal from Moody. It was definitely a record breaker for Moody to put the 49ers up 3-0. And then you kind of had the big play for Pat and the Chiefs after that happened. It was the 52-yard pass to Hardman, which I did not expect to be completed. It seemed like that ball was up in the air forever. I did not expect Hardman to come down with it, but he did. Big play. Looked like the Chiefs were going to score, or obviously had a chance to score. That got him in the red zone. And then you had the Pacheco fumble. Kelsey wasn't in during that fumble. And certainly that's when you had that Andy Reid moment where he kind of, went over to Andy Reid and, as Kelsey says, told him just how much he loves him, right? Mm-hmm. That's what he was doing. That's what he said post-game. But you had that moment, right? And then, just Travis just steaming on the bench, definitely fiery. And, that's I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do think that's one of the differences I've noticed in Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelsey. Look, the 49ers, they play their hearts out, but there's just something about the fire in those two guys that you don't see on that other team. Even in Kittle, like Kittle plays hard, but he's a very nice, happy guy. You see the fire there sometimes, but not to the level of those two guys. And you saw it from Kelsey in that moment, but that was the big play for them early on. And, they ended up getting a field goal and going 10-7. We can get into how the 49ers got that touchdown, that Juwan Jennings touchdown.
Which is hilarious because it was a trick play, obviously. Dude, you want to talk about, you just mentioned it, that throw to MV, or that throw to Mecole Hardman that you thought wasn't going to make it was in the air forever. That Juwan Jennings throw was in the air forever. Mm-hmm. It took so long to get back to CMC on that trick play. Yeah. And I believe Boomer Esiason pointed it out that there should have been a flag called, which shout out to the refs. They did a really good job all game of really letting the guys play and not making it about them. They refed a very good game. But their center was, offensive lineman can get downfield too fast before a play called, and it's called ineligible lineman downfield. Their center was a good 10, 12 yards downfield before that ball was caught. Maybe not 10, 12. I might be exaggerating. Might have been 7. Either way, it was more than 5. Yeah. And that probably should. So that touchdown shouldn't even have counted. Granted, it's ticky-tack, but that's a big difference in the ball game considering it was a bunch of field goals. Like you said, it was the most field goals in Super Bowl history. There was 9, right? Or no, there was, how many Super Bowls were there? Or how many field goals were there?
I don't know. It should have in front of you. Yeah.
I think there was
most field
7.
Most field goals made 9. That's the most. Harrison Butker. No, that's his career. His Super Bowl career.
There were 7 in this game. 4 by Kansas City and 3 by. So
we got too many papers. We got too many papers in front of us.
Again, the communication in the NFL was great.
Yeah. By the way, man, he has 9 field goals in the Super Bowl. Good for him. But anyways, there was a 10-3 at the half. The Juwan Jennings play was the most exciting. I do think it kind of feeds into Cam Newton's kind of narrative that Brock Purdy is just a game manager and he's not this game changer because you had a wide receiver throw a touchdown pass. So, but again, I do think Brock looked really good in the first half. I think everything seemed to be going not everything seemed to be going the Niners' way. That might be the wrong way to word it, but they seem to be playing the better game, right?
The Niners seemed like they were dominating the game.
Yes.
And for the score to be low, obviously we're going to the second half and what that looked like, but
that plays into the hands.
That
of the
plays
Chiefs.
in the hands of the Chiefs 100%. If you're not beating them by more than 2 scores, and you're dominating, that's a problem for you, not them. They feel the Chiefs obviously felt like if we've played the worst half of football that we've ever played in the Super Bowl, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, potentially. That's probably true. Out of the 4 they've been to, that's probably the worst half of football they've played, and somehow to only be down 1 score.
Yeah.
And then to be able to make your, adjustments in the second half and do what they did is really incredible to me.
Well, yeah.
And to go back to the Travis Kelce thing with him, bumping, Andy Reid being fiery about it, it was mostly about, like you said, I'm not in on that specific play. The player that's subbing in for me didn't make the block right, which led to the fumble.
Right.
Like, I'm upset because if I was in, that wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Now, maybe it would have, but he's saying, I know my blocking responsibility. I would have made that not happen. Get me the ball.
Right.
And all these non-football fans, he should have been kicked out. He's so disrespectful. That's football. People get emotional. Tom Brady dressed down Bill O'Brien on the sideline several times, and it happens. It's okay. And like they said, hey, I like what Andy said after. Hey, he got me off guard. Like, usually I go and give him a little nudge. I give him a little bump. Like, funny. They are fiery. What did Andy say? He goes, I know it's like I got 5 kids.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what that's like. Like, it's okay. Like, I think people are making it a big deal. So, because now the season's over, it won't get latched onto forever, thank God. That was what bothered me. I love when people were making those comments about it, because it's like, that's not it. If you don't watch football enough, which the casual fans, especially that watch the Super Bowl because of other things, whether it's the halftime show and all that. So,
well, yeah, either way, I do want to say, shout out to those tight ends, because, if you look at their stat lines, Kelce was 1 catch for 1 yard in the first half, and Kittle had no catches. He had 1 target that, he caught but got called back due to a penalty. But those guys, with how hard they play and with how good of blockers they are and with the intensity they bring, even though I do think Kelce brings a little more intensity, like those guys, you got to have them in every play you can. And, so I get that Kelce, he wants to be in. This is the game of games. Mm-hmm. He's like, look, no plays off, right?
No.
And, he
last game of the season.
Again, he loves Andy Reid. I don't want to spend too much time on it. This might be the perfect little couple minutes to slip it in. This halftime show kind of talk, 10-3 at halftime. We got a little Usher halftime show. And he takes on that. Did you watch it?
I didn't.
You didn't watch it?
No.
Oh,
I'm not a halftime show person. And, yeah, I liked Usher when I was 14. He hasn't sung a song for me since I was in grade school, middle school, high school.
Let me cut you off there, because he actually performed 14 songs. So, yeah, so good number. He performed 14 songs. A lot of them were great. Obviously, Usher has a ton of hits. A lot of people are saying Swiss Beats should be mad at him for the way he danced with Alicia Keys.
I did see that
and all that stuff. I thought the blue suit he came out with, I was like, he reminds me of something. To some people, I think it was what's the
Power Rangers.
That was me. I thought he looked like the blue Power Rangers, but other people were saying he looked like, the guys from Dodgeball. I forget what they called them. Globo Gym guys.
Yes.
Right? But like either way, it was a lot of fun. It was really funny. I saw Jermaine Dupri. I didn't realize it was Jermaine Dupri. I thought it was Usher's Usher. Like Usher's
Jermaine
butler.
Dupri's like 5 foot tall.
I did not realize that was him. So like either way, I think it got a good grade from most people. Most people seem to like it.
That's why Jermaine Dupri only hires singers when they're in their teenage years, because they're the same height. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a little Bow Wow, Usher. He had all of them young. Chris Cross. That's him too, dog.
Hey, but they definitely, brought Atlanta to the world with all that, with all the Atlanta kind of cameos and all that. But, yeah, it was good. It was a good show. It kind of made up for the fact that the first half, it flew by. I was like, this might be the world's quickest Super Bowl of all time. And then I think in the end, it was like one of the
longest ever.
Was it the longest?
It was the longest ever because the overtime.
It was like the third or fourth longest like playoff game.
Yeah.
So like, or maybe even game ever. But like, because yeah, again, it went to the end of the first overtime, really. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's hard to talk halftime with somebody who didn't watch halftime.
That is true. I mean, and the commercials, I saw a few that were pretty cool. I thought the Coors Light commercial was pretty cool. The Clydesdale's back out there for Budweiser, pretty cool. Yeah. I saw some commercials that weren't, they're kind of lame. I'm not going to lie, kind of lame. But there were some really neat ones. Copilot by Microsoft, that tripped me out. The AI thing, that tripped me out.
I like I can't lie, a lot of car commercials aren't that great. and BMW, the Christopher Walken one. Like, there's only one Christopher Walken.
That one was very good.
That was good. I like
all
that
the
one.
impressions.
You know,
that was very
it was
good.
really interesting to kind of see, what brands have $7 million for 30 seconds of airtime.
Well, like I was telling you before the break, Jesus had 14 million because
He got a full
he gets
minute,
us. He
yeah.
got 2 commercials. So they got in 2 different commercials.
Okay.
So good for them. Shout out.
Were they
Shout
30-second
out them.
spots? I
Yeah,
mean,
they
if they're
30-second
minute
spots.
spots, man,
They were
that's, you know.
30-second spots. So, yeah, there was a lot of, I miss the old classic commercials. Like, if the Super Bowl commercial is supposed to be the greatest thing, like this is when ad companies, right?
It's
You're in the
their
ad
Super
industry.
Bowl,
You're in the
in a
ad
way.
industry.
Yeah.
That's their Super Bowl. Hey, we got an opportunity to write a Super Bowl commercial, right?
Yeah.
Some of these weren't that good over the years. There's some that are great, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
like I miss when they just seemed to be better when I was younger. Maybe everything was better when we were younger.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. Either way, you guys are listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix, home of NAU football, go Lumberjacks, ASU baseball, and of course, your Las Vegas Raiders. Shout out Bowers. They did a great job hosting the Super Bowl.
Unbelievable.
Make sure you guys come on back. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. James out west, Pat the Stat Guy, into the night, KDUS 1060 AM Phoenix. That Super Bowl game was one hell of a game, like you said, Pat. Had everything you would want. Obviously, it was a little slow in the first half, but it picks up. You had some drama. You had, for the third time, Mahomes and the Chiefs being down by 10 points in the Super Bowl come back to win.
That's
Just incredible stuff to have happen. You had just mentioned, though, before we got back, that at halftime, the 2 main weapons, whether, you want to consider Kittle a main weapon, which he is, but like Kelsey, obviously the main weapon for the Chiefs, having 1 catch, 1 yard, and the other one being a goose egg. And then at the end of the game, I don't have the stat in front of me, but Kelsey was at 100 or close to 100.
93.
Yeah, just to do
9 for 9. So he went 8 for 92.
It was back and forth, and for them to force OT. But Kelsey showed up when it mattered the most. He set them up to win the game, and they almost did. They went to him. Obviously, he was going to go to him, and he threw it to him. They kind of forced it over there when you saw that Rashid Rice was wide open in the center of the playing field, and Mahomes just didn't look at him at all.
Right.
The play was meant, I'm throwing a shoulder fade to Kelsey, and we're going to see what happens. They had a chance to win that game. The Chiefs had a chance to win that game in regulation. They just ran out of time. They didn't get stopped necessarily. Like, I think they were on first or second and goal. But it was they were running out of time, so they had to do it.
Yeah. No, they had that little spat on the sideline. Rice saying, "Hey, I'm open," and obviously Tony Romo was going. Rice is saying, "I could have just won the Super Bowl," but either way, later, in overtime when they were doing that drive, not to skip ahead too much,
you're good.
But Kelsey got that big catch, that set them up for that last play. Man, I don't know where they ended up, like the 4-yard line, whatever that. Like, I thought Kelsey was going to fight for those final 4 yards. I just thought he had it. Like, he was like, I am scoring. I am winning the Super Bowl in front of my famous girlfriend. Like, I was like, watch him just do this, drag 4 or 5 people. He obviously didn't. But, man, that guy, like you said, he had a huge second half and overtime and just willed him and Pat and that team willed their way to a win.
They absolutely did. And then in that overtime, real quick, because, obviously new overtime rules has been in for 2 years now, but they haven't had to use it yet. For the Niners to not know kind of what was going on and the Chiefs to absolutely understand what was going to happen, they said they had contingencies for everything. If the other team scored a touchdown and we scored a touchdown, we're going for 2. We're going for the win. They had contingencies in place, and it seemed like the Niners didn't. I understand Kyle Shanahan saying, like we talked about earlier, about, hey, I want that third possession. But why don't we, instead of thinking that way, why don't we think of we're going to get a stop, we're going to get a score, and we're going to win? Instead of having the mentality of I want it to go, it's like playing for overtime. I want to play for the win, not play for the overtime. I don't want to play for the chance of that. Now, we talked about it. People didn't really mention this. Why'd they kick off? Why didn't they kick off? Why'd they get the ball? Their defense, the Niners' defense, was on the field for like 7.5 minutes that last drive going into the game when Mahomes went down there and they ran out of time and they had to kick a field goal. Like, they were gassed. Like, he wanted to give his defense a chance that it's more than likely that Pat's going to score anyways. Like, so let me give my defense a chance to rest at least. Yeah. Like, give us a puncher's chance instead of putting them out there gassed like they were. So they do that. We get into they go down, they stall. They have to kick a field goal, the Niners. Chiefs right back down the field. Like you said, Kelsey catches that ball. You think he's going to go in there, ends at the 4-yard line. And that play is the same play. They call it I think he called it corn dog is what Andy Reid called it. That's the same play that they've ran the last 2 Super Bowls they've won. Same play, same motion, just a different person. Well, same play, same motion, just a different player, just a different person in the slot, and who made that happen. And this is what's interesting, Pat, is that it was Mecole Hardman that caught that ball that didn't know he won the Super Bowl. He was the guy that was on Jets Hard Knocks that said, who are we going to be playing in the Super Bowl? The Niners. Are you going to do something? Yeah, I'm going to catch a touchdown to win the game, and we're going to beat them 31-21. Well, they traded him from them in October, and here it was. They still ended up playing the same team and doing almost the same thing.
It would have been more impressive if it was 31-21. But yeah, either way, I mean, we definitely just skipped over the whole second half where the Chiefs came back from down 10. I know you mentioned that a little bit, and that's why I didn't want to really bring up the Kelsey overtime fighting because, again, we just kind of skipped over that second half and that amazing comeback and all the decisions that were made to make it 19-19. There was a muffed punt, missed extra point, and again, at the end of regulation, 19-19. I believe it is the first overtime in Super Bowl history, or at least in – I don't have the stat in front of me because
I think Atlanta played an overtime game against.
Yeah, since then, right? So I guess it's the second one. But either way, it's been a while. I think it was the first overtime game this playoffs.
Yeah, with the
right.
With
so
the
again, to get it in the Super Bowl, it was quite the treat for NFL fans. But yeah, it is kind of weird. Those rules, I wasn't aware of the change in the overtime rules either. I did think the refs did a great job explaining it, and also shout out to the refs for not being in the news and the main story in the news after the Super Bowl. Shout out to them for that.
They did a good job.
But I thought they did a good job of explaining it. And I got it right away that, both teams get the ball. And my thinking was, I was definitely surprised when Shanahan, decided to not defer and to get the ball. Because I was thinking to myself, we just saw Pat Mahomes come down from 10 points. I know he doesn't think putting 3 or 7 points on the board is going to be pressure on Pat Mahomes. I didn't understand it. I did hear that explanation at the end of the game, and I'm not going to say that is the wrong thinking. Okay, I get it. But in the end, you put Pat Mahomes down 3, and that's not intimidating. If you're going to try and get Pat Mahomes down points, try and get him down a touchdown.
Got to at least.
And so he set himself up, the 49ers and Shanahan, they set themselves up to watch 2 Pat Mahomes drives at the end of the fourth and in overtime where you just had to have Purdy and McCaffrey sitting on the sidelines. I think McCaffrey had a towel over his head. He just couldn't watch because they just had to sit there and wonder, could we have done more? Could we have done more? It's just now up to Pat Mahomes. Can our defense stop Pat Mahomes? And I'm sure after they lost, they thought we could have done more. I know Bosa said he couldn't look people in the eyes after the game. He was having trouble looking at people in the eyes. So
they could have done more, Pat. On 2nd and 5 in overtime, instead of handing the ball to Christian McCaffrey, they threw it out. And there was pressure, and it was an incomplete. Ball went to the ground. And on 3rd and 5, did the same thing. So they could have rushed. I think Christian McCaffrey could have gotten 5 yards on 2 running plays. Yeah. They didn't do that, which caused them to have to go, we should kick a field goal here because we have to at least put some points on the board. They had an opportunity. So for Niners or Niners fans to be upset about it, you should be upset. Yes, you lost to the dynasty of the 2020s, it seems like, and what could end up being the greatest unbelievable. Tom just retired. We're talking about the greatest of all time. But they should be upset with themselves because they and their coaching staff left the game on the table more than one time. They left it on the table in regulation with some calls, and they definitely left it on the table here with not just the deferred the kick, but also not choosing to lean on your guy that has been busting all game in Christian McCaffrey. Was the mistake that I think potentially cost them the chance to win that game.
They're going to be upset with themselves. They're going to find things that they could have done differently. But in the end, I think Shanahan has lost to Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes in his career. Brock Purdy's first Super Bowl losses to Pat Mahomes, the modern GOAT. So, you've got to take the positives away from this season. But in the end, Pat Mahomes is now a 3-time Super Bowl champion and I think Super Bowl MVP.
Yep, 3-time MVP, 2-time regular season MVP.
Andy Reid now has his 3rd championship after 60. Travis Kelce now has 3 rings. I think Gronk has 4. The argument on who's the best tight end of all time is probably up there now if you want to have a GOAT argument. But, the results are Chiefs are champs in Vegas. Pat Mahomes is undefeated in that stadium. Is it just or Allegiant Stadium?
Yeah.
Or is it all
No.
Okay.
I will tell you this,
or
real
quick.
I
didn't know if he was undefeated against the Raiders.
Hey, this is something because we're talking about all-time greats and all that stuff, and obviously Tom and then Bill. Andy Reid's got 26 playoff wins. That puts him only second behind Bill Belichick at 31.
Yeah.
So realistically speaking, if Andy coaches 2 or 3 more seasons and they win 1 or 2 more Super Bowls in that time period, he'll pass that number in 2 seasons. Like it took, think about that. It took all the time. And yes, Andy's been coaching a long time too, but to have this jump of him really quick.
Well, let's just say, look, Andy's 65, Bill's 71. If he plays to that 71, that's giving him 5 or 6 more years.
And he's got Pat Mahomes. Yeah, he'll destroy that record. And think about that too. Tom Brady, look at what Pat's done. He's 28 years old. We talked about he's 28. Like to already do what he's done. He's been in the league 7 years, but only 6 as a starter.
Yes, exactly.
He's played in 5 Super Bowls and won 3. No, 4 Super Bowls and won 3.
They've been in 4 out of the last 5 years and won 3. Yep.
Unbelievable.
And then, I mean, you're right. It is unbelievable. The guy has it probably, again, Nick, you said he's 28. Like the chances of him getting his 4th before 30 actually seem pretty good. I do know they have some free agents and some holes off to fill. But again, I think kind of the rich get richer and people will want to go play with Pat Mahomes. They know that their wide receiving core is kind of weak. They'll probably add some people.
And these kids are getting better. And I say kids, these young men. Rasheed Rice is going to be like, I think
Rice is good. Yeah.
They have pieces, like you said. They have to figure out what they're going to do with Chris Jones. They got to figure out what they're going to do with a couple of people. Same thing with the Niners. They got to figure out some things. They contractually cannot pay Brock Purdy right now. It's in the bylaws. They can't pay him until next year anyways. So they don't have to worry about that now. But I think Brandon Ayuk, is up. There's some people up on some money that they're going to make decisions on for the Niners. And really, this is that time period,
But
the Niners have a great chance of being around for a long time and being an NFC juggernaut.
Well, they're
currently
currently
the
favorites for next season since they bust those out right away. But again, Pat and Travis, they said they're looking for that three-peat. The Chiefs are never an underdog, right? Just make sure you get that right. And, it'll be interesting to see if they can do a three-peat. I don't know. Has that happened before in the NFL? I don't think it has. So I think Bradshaw got 4 and 5 years.
I think there was a 3P. I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't think there was.
Oh, my goodness. We should know that. Either way, you guys have been listening to James Out West on KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at James_Out West and Pat at Pat the Stat Guy. You've been listening to KDUS 1060 Phoenix. Pat, got anything else to say to the peeps?
Nope.
All right, man.
Have a great night.
Have a great night. Everybody stay safe out there. One love.
Peace.